October 9th, 2025. It is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the duly called meeting of the Texas Low-Level Radioactive Waste Disposal Compact Commission. We are here today in the absolutely gorgeous Vermont State House in Montpelier, Vermont. Quite frankly, this is our favorite meeting of the year for everyone who's attending because we get to come see the beautiful state of Vermont and spend some time with our Vermont commissioners and Vermont government officials, which is really hard to describe how important that is for us, and we value it very much. Quickly, I will note that Commissioner Morris is here, Vice Chairman Salzman, Commissioner Nyack, myself, our Vermont Commissioner Sodick, and Commissioner Bradford, and our newest commissioner, Commissioner Anwar. So we have a full quorum. I know that Commissioner Mundy may join us later via Zoom, but we will note his attendance if he shows up. So therefore we have a quorum and we can proceed with our business. Also, our Attorney General Representative, Mr. Ogle, is online. We also noted that we are very, very honored to have our newest TCEQ commissioner from Texas on today, Ms. Tanya Miller. She was recently appointed, and we look forward to working with her and want to congratulate her on her appointment. But how we wanted to start today was we have been just recently met with and are very honored to be joined today by Commissioner Carrick Johnson, and he is a commissioner of the Vermont Department of Public Service. If you haven't read about Commissioner Johnson, you should go online and do it. His background is impressive, and he has had an amazing career that led him to this point, and now he is in charge of the nuclear issues here in the state of Vermont. We're also joined today by Tony Lashinsky, the Vermont nuclear engineer, which we appreciate. But Commissioner Johnson was appointed to the position that was previously filled by June Tierney, who was a friend of ours, and we were very excited to now get to work with Commissioner Johnson. So we wanted to invite him to say a couple of words as we started today, just to maybe welcome us to Vermont and pass on any wisdom you want to pass on to us. So I will call on Commissioner Johnson. Again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is a distinct pleasure and honor. First, let me say welcome to Vermont. And if there's anything that you want or any ideas about restaurant, well, places, there always, a quick commercial. There is a little spot if you have a break and you're mindful of your flight and travel and you're looking for something small. There's a little place called Artisan's Hand, all handcrafted goods, things that you won't find anywhere else in the world. Just down, there's only two real main streets in Montpelier, and it's at the juncture of those. It's a nice little store. If you're looking for just a little something just to take with to do it, I encourage you to visit that store. All right. When I'm required to do a little tourism hit when it's there. I thought, Mr. Chairman, what I do, and thank you very much for your kind comments. Let me also, though, first just introduce, we also have Caroline Daniels, a key attorney from the Vermont Public Service Department, does incredible work on this nuclear issue. So I just want to make sure that the commission understood that Caroline was here as well from the department. A couple things, because I was fortunate to have a conversation prior to this call, and I learned a little bit about you all. And I'm mindful in the incredible qualifications and stature and thought that you all bring to your work, for which, again, I am very grateful. Just a couple of things I just wanted to make you aware of that inform my view of the work here. I started off my career working for the Attorney General's office for the Consumer Protection Division. So protecting customers, protecting consumers. Then I served as an advocate for industry and commercial interests on energy and environmental issues in Vermont. So it's not an easy gig to, Vermont's a beautiful state and a very environmentally committed and a good government state. And so there are certain things I worked in this state house for about 24 years, doing a number of things. Then I worked for a large utility, the largest distribution utility in the state of Vermont. And then I was asked to join the transmission utility at a time when they're quintupling their assets and building high voltage transmission lines across this beautiful state, which you might imagine that can lead to conflict and disagreements. And so Finding ways to collaborate, to identify areas of mutual benefit has been something that I have sought, have tried to honor my entire life. I left that transmission company because part of my responsibilities grew to include strategic initiatives, like what's next? What's the next good technology we should be embracing? We created a startup called Utopus Insights with IBM, Boston Consulting Group, and a Vermont transmission company. They asked me to join them. I did. I commuted. I lived about 30 minutes north of Manhattan in Valhalla, New York. So would had a little apartment and then come back on weekends. That part was awful, but it was exciting. It was global competition, and we got purchased by Vestas, the world's largest wind turbine company. It was analytics, analyzing wind and solar energy and better predictive models, using high performance weather prediction. It was incredible. We got bought, gave me a little bit more freedom. I came back to that transmission company because I believed in the mission, and I was heading towards done. And it's a Vermont story. Vermont's a small place. It just so happens that the governor and I grew up in the same small town about 7 miles from here called Barrie, Vermont, working class town, grand industry, a lot of quarries. When I was growing up, we owned a bakery, and the governor used to come with his mother every Saturday. So I have known of the governor and the family for generations. And he gave me a call and asked if I'd be willing to serve in this role. So from protecting consumers to represent commercial interests to who also have big energy users, to working for a distribution utility, to a transmission utility. Now in this role, that's the full panoply of what I'm bringing and try to accomplish. I will tell you, I could not be more grateful for the continued participation of Dick and Peter on your commission. They are invaluable resources to me and to my team. And I know that because I asked them, you treat them very well. And for that, I really appreciate it. I'm grateful. They are incredible resources, have incredible national and international networks. And the way things are going, I think I'll be calling upon them more because there's a lot of excitement here. And what that leads me to, Mr. Chairman, is that this is really such a success story, this compact. That's the way I view it. That's the way my boss, Governor Phil Scott, who passes on his warmest greetings, he wishes he could be here. And I will tell you the tradition of addressing this committee and supporting its work. The former commissioner, June Tierney, is not just a friend, but a good friend, and she remains a good friend. And I remember her speaking of this, and she actually went to Texas. And I know, and she had talked to me about what a good time she had. I will tell you, I served in the Air Force for about 4 years, for exactly 4 years, May 15th, 1980, and May 14th, 1984. And my job was to translate Russian. So I flew on a plane and translated Russian. And I spent about 7 months in Texas, in San Angelo, Texas, at Goodfellow Air Force Base. And coming from Vermont and then going to 6 weeks at Lackland Air Force Base for basic, and then going to Monterey for language school, which is gorgeous. And then you get plopped in San Angelo, Texas, which was a culture shock. But I'm going to tell you something. One quick story. Car breaks down and I'm hitchhiking in Texas. There's an older gentleman on his porch sipping a beer. When I'm walking by, he says, "What's going on?" I'm saying, "Oh, my car broke." "Well, what do you need?" And he said, "Well, I just need to get a ride to the gas station." He throws his keys to his pickup. So go ahead, there's a gas can there. Just go ahead and bring it and see if you need some help and bring it back. So I did, brought it back, did it, used it, was able to take care of business. And to me, the warmth of the people of West Central Texas, I mean, I was shocked at the topography, but the sky and the people, I love that place. I have very fond memories of that time in Texas. Had to share that because I never talk about that much. Which brings us today. This really is a success story, and we've had some conversations of what the future might hold. I specifically asked the chairman, are we doing enough to honor our side of the commitment for this compact? Because it's incredibly important. I make the offer to you anytime you feel like disappointed or something, and I am sure I'll first hear from Dick and Peter, but the door is open. Please reach out. This is an important, real success story. It's something that we'd like to build upon and keep going I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know this, that in this time where conflict seeming gets more and more polarized, Texas and Vermont and doing this work collaboratively, I just think there's so many, not only is there great concrete work that we've accomplished together, and there's, as I understand it now, this group as a working board, because of all your contributions, are handling some of the leading issues, kind of what's happening with small modular reactors and other issues associated with waste, and this group is dealing with it. And I will tell you, there's great interest from my governor and from my team on what are other energy sources. Energy costs are expensive in Vermont, and the pain that Vermonters, all New Englanders, as across the nation, affordability is critical. And where this asset and this compact is an asset, this relationship is an asset. And the more we can utilize that to benefit customers, ratepayers, both for our respective states and regions, collaboratively in concert with one another, can only be to the good. And actually, I think is so timely and important when there's so many other things that are rising costs. So please, I just want to make sure if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything in particular. You have the experts here to do it. The door is always welcome, you know. If you're visiting this one time, don't be afraid to extend your visit. If there's things that you like or you didn't get to, our office is open, willing to help and to accomplish that. I am interested. I did follow up one quick thing. I'm interested in the University of Texas and some of the work that's going on, because we see the need for a stronger partnership in academia with some energy. We happen to have a land grant college in Vermont, the University of Vermont. My department has a great relationship. We just came from kind of like a half-day retreat with them. I raised the issue of better advanced nuclear collaboration, but I wonder if there's a two-state academia, regulator, business interest kind of coalition that might make sense. So I'll follow up on that, see if that might be of interest.
Commissioner Johnson, I do have one suggestion.
Yeah.
We'd like to start an exchange program where for the months of May to September, you send us your commissioners to the state of Texas, and 6 of us will come.
I tell you what, Mr. Chairman, why don't we leave it this way? I'll put that in the august hands, the hands of our august
Their judgment may
commission
be,
members.
But
with that, again, thank you very much. Please have a wonderful visit. If there's anything you need, the chairman has my direct line and my email. Happy to answer any questions, but we view this as a success story, one we want to continue for the foreseeable future and beyond. And anything we can do to better serve as a partner, we're open to those suggestions. Thank you.
thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And
I
thank you.
guaranteed that this was gonna be peak. People were here. And, you know, normally Vermont takes the leaves back onto the trees if we're a little late. Didn't happen this year.
Well, I'll just let that sit. How's that? Okay. Thank you very much.
Ms. Daniels, we appreciate you coming too. Thank you very much. Thank you again. As I say, and I will say probably multiple times today, so pardon me, this is the best trip of our year. We look forward to it all year. Everyone, first thing they ask about at the beginning of every year is, when are we going to Vermont? So this is the trip that we all look forward to. And it's not just because it's such a beautiful locale. It's also because we love to come here and get to see all of you. And we also love the idea that we very much want to honor the partnership that we have established. And as you said, this is a partnership that has really done nothing but achieve things that probably are the envy of other states and compacts, because we have done a lot, and it's because of our partnership. So we very much thank you. With that, we are through with our introductions. I wanted to make sure if there's anybody online today from the press. And again, I failed to mention this at the beginning. We're using the Zoom function. So if you need to speak and you're online, please use the raise your hand function, which if you hover in the lower half of the screen, it will have that option. So please feel free to raise your hand that way. With that, we are through with item 3 of our agenda. We can move on to item 4, which is our public comment period. If anyone here in person, and by that I mean the 3 of you, want to speak, please feel free to come to the podium. If not, also if you're online and you'd like to speak, please use the raise your hand function and we will give you the floor. Okay, seeing none, we can move on from item 4 to item 5, which is our report from Mr. Carlson from WCS, who was very courageous in getting here because he had some trouble and he persevered through it and still joined us. So he gets his little scarf today and we appreciate you being here, Dave.
Thank you. The pilot of the plane I was on refused to fly without a functional computer. I'm not sure why that is, but
He must have never served in the Navy.
there you go. So let me give you my report, and I'll start by going through an overview of some of the documents that you've been provided in your package. So let me start with the Texas fiscal year that ended on August 31st of 2025. So for 12 months, we had from the compact, in compact disposals of 13,347 cubic feet and 719 curies. From out of the compact, we had 28,226 cubic feet and 82,854 curies decayed. Now approved, we had considerably more than that, 133,743 cubic feet and 327,000 curies. So if you compare the amount that was actually disposed to what was approved by the Compact Commission, it was 21% in terms of cubic feet and 25% in terms of curies. So roughly consistent with what we've seen in the past. In the past, it's been more or less a third of what gets approved by the Compact Commission actually comes to fruition, to reality when it gets disposed. And that's just due to the operations of nuclear power plants, of other generators, of brokers and so on that are shipping waste. For the current fiscal year, in compact disposals, we have had none in September. In fact, we had none in August either, so no in compact disposals yet. Out of compact, 2,173 cubic feet and 21,322 curies decayed. The totals since inception through the end of the month of September, 414,742 cubic feet. That's about 4.6% of our licensed capacity over the course of now 13 years. So you can do the math to extend the life of the facility using those numbers. And then 654,135 curies decayed. So that's about 16.8% of licensed capacity. But again, the curies decay pretty quickly, and the rate of increase slows very much and already has. In terms of constructed capacity, our total available capacity today is 463,000 cubic feet. Phase one, of course, was constructed with 450,000 cubic feet of capacity. We still have 59,590 cubic feet, or about 13% of phase one remaining. Phase 2A, which went into service back in February of 2024, is 425,000 cubic feet. And we've used about 24,000 cubic feet out of that, so 94% of that remaining. So we have more than adequate capacity, even excluding phase 2A from that amount. Finally, let me just touch on the quarterly payments. We made quarterly payments for the period through 8/31 during the month of September. 1.3 million to the state of Texas, 298,000 to Andrews County, bringing us to totals since inception of 94.6 million to the state of Texas and 21 million to Andrews County, or a grand total of 115,700,000 over the past 13 years in terms of surcharges that we paid. Since we're in the state of Vermont, I'll just briefly mention Vermont Yankee. Vermont Yankee is coming up to the end, and my understanding at least, and I don't represent those guys, but my understanding is by the end of next year, all of the demolition on the site should be cleared and all of the demolition debris should be removed from the site. In terms of things that are coming to the compact, my understanding is there's one liner on site that's waiting to decay, just from a dose rate perspective, not due to waste class. And then perhaps there'll be a couple more liners of waste as they go through the underground utilities and take out piping and things like that. So roughly 500 to 1,000 cubic feet more of waste is kind of what's projected at this point. So not very much left from Vermont Yankee right now.
In that demo rubble, where does it go?
So demo rubble, it depends. If it is clean, it can go to a normal landfill. If it is I suppose you'd say implicated or potentially contaminated, then it would go to to our exempt facility.
Didn't even get rubblized and left on site? Like, I mean, literally ground up and just put back into the earth? Is any of it able to do that?
Tony would know that better than I would.
Yeah, I can actually answer that. Should I come up there?
You can answer from there.
Okay, yeah, as part of the MOU docket 8880, which was the agreement for North Star to purchase Vermont Yankee, part of the agreement was that clean fill needed to be used for the power block building footprints. So the only place where on-site rubbleized material could be used was rubble from the cooling tower demolition could be left there. But I think that was actually shipped off-site. So I guess there was concern over potential contamination of the power block building concrete. So the agreement was that would not be used as fill.
Makes sense. Do you have a final total number of what come into the CWF from Yankee, volume wise or curie wise?
Yeah, I'm sure I could get that. I don't have that in front of me right now. But I
Was it close to the estimate from the beginning, or did it end up being substantially less or substantially more?
it doesn't change much. So, as you look at a nuclear power plant, you can look at the various pieces of it, add them up. It's just material takeoff. So you're pretty close.
Is the percentage that we heard about 85% of volume probably going to the requisite cell? Is that held true for the most part for Yankee?
Yeah, and it may be more than that. And simply because so much of it is concrete and building materials that, in some cases are more implicated or potentially contaminated than actually, Class A waste.
As a quick reminder, going back to Dave's statements about the percentages of cubic feet curies actually used, that percentage, which is held historically pretty much the same for the last several years, is the reason we have the contingent curie program, because what we know is we tend to use about 25% of the curies that we grant. So that's the reason we've developed the contingent curie program, which I'm sure we may speak about later. So I'll cut you off, Dave. Were you through?
I am. Thank you.
Oh, the status of the application of the renewal license.
It's in review. I understand there may be a couple more questions coming from TCEQ. When all the questions are answered, then they'll publish that and have it out for public comment.
What's the public comment timeline?
I don't recall. TCEQ would better state that than I would. I think it's certainly at least 30 days. It may be a longer one than that. It may be a 90-day review. I'm not sure.
Any other questions? I think your microphone's on. Oh, sorry. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. All right, after a brief technical fix, we're back. We can now move on to item 6, which is the Rules Committee report, and I will turn it over to the Chair of the Rules Committee, Commissioner Morris.
Thank you. There are 3 items of interest for the Rules Committee is considering. The management rule, of course, which has been an ongoing process. We've seen some changes in management in some of the impacted companies, so we're still working on this. And hopefully, and we'll have further reports coming up in the future. So that's that. 2 other things. One is the small quantity generator issue that was brought up at the last meeting. We have actually talked about that. We really need to really tweak. I know there's been some confusion sometimes when companies or entities are applying for a petition. And sometimes they check the small quantity generator box on the application, not really understanding what it is. So we really want to tweak perhaps how we address the small quantity generator. It could be through an application change with a drop-down menu that further cites the rule perhaps, and it explains things. And so we're looking at that. We don't have to make a rule change. We prefer not to, if we can do a tweaking of the application instead. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. What we do decide though, we will put on our website for review and maybe input from affected parties. That look for that in the future on our website. And the third item is not a minor issue, but it's not minor to the people that have to deal with it on a regular basis. And that's the issue of electronic notification versus hard copy. So I'm going to turn that over to Stephen,
Yes.
who's been looking at this, Mr. Raines, and would you cite the rule number 2, please?
Yeah, so in the Texas Administrative Code 675.23, we have a requirement that everybody that is submitting an import application notify TCEQ for certification review before we proceed with consideration of their application, that they do so in hard copy. That's become an issue that TCEQ would like to see change, and so would the applicants as well, that they no longer be required to provide written notification. We're working with TCEQ to come up with some draft language that addresses TCEQ concerns and also the concerns of the importers. And when we have a draft ready for you from talking to TCEQ, I'm going to bring it forward with you. But TCEQ is very concerned to make sure the notification process fits with what they need. And we're waiting for some of their attorneys actually to get back to you. So I will report back to you when we finish meeting with them and come up with some recommendations for the Rules Committee to go forward from there.
And I think this is just a vestige of the past, that when the rule first got passed, we thought the paper copy was important before we all got comfortable using electronic copies of everything in our world. So I think this is just us jumping into the 21st century more than anything, but I think it will make everyone's life easier. So
I think it's important. One of the things we talked about, Chairman, is that it is important that the importers give notice to TCEQ of their intent to import.
Right.
And we want to make sure that requirement stays in place, and that's what we're working through.
And I want to comment on rule revision in general. And some of these rules were generated back when John and I first came on the Compact Commission, which has been like 14 years ago. So rules do need to be reviewed periodically, and that's one obviously they need to be.
thank you very much. We can now move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is our capacity contingency plan. Commissioner Mundy is not here. He had a doctor's appointment. So I will just say that from my perspective, the capacity and contingency committee are now becoming more and more of an overlap in an interesting way. Because a lot of the contingency issues probably relate to the capacity issues. So we will probably work to either redefine those committees' charge and or maybe even combine them in some way. But I think the issues that are now before the capacity and contingency committee really relate to the future needs of our in-compact generators, and how capacity needs to be adequately reserved for them, and maybe address some of the issues about the way our statute reads with the reservation of capacity for both the state of Vermont and for the in-compact generators, which, as I've said numerous times, is our primary mission, is to protect capacity for those in-compact generators, because that's the reason we regulate the import of waste from the non-compact states. So obviously it is important, but we're going to probably try to refine that a little bit better and maybe give a new charge to those committees and maybe even, like I said, make them more. So other than that, I don't think there's anything to report from the capacity or contingency plan committees. So with that, we're through with item 7. Before we start item 8, as you can see, there is a abnormally large number of applications before us. This is what I would like to do, and I think we did this last meeting too, but we'll do it again. I think we will treat them as a group unless anyone, and by anyone, I mean whether it be in the public or on the commission, would like to pull any of these applications out and have them treated individually. We would like to treat them all as a group and let John go through his report for all of them and then have a singular vote for all of them. But to make sure everyone has a moment to look through all those applications and see if they want any of them pulled out, I thought what we might do right now is take about a 10 or 15-minute break to let everybody have the time to look through them. And then when we come back, the first question will be, does anyone want to pull any of these applications out of the group treatment? And if they do, then we'll pull them out and deal with them individually. Otherwise, we will treat items A through, A through M as a collective group, and John will give his report on each, and then we'll have a singular vote. So with that, let's take a break until, let's say 9:45. I mean, excuse me, 10:45, to let everyone have the opportunity to look through them and see if they want to pull any of them out. And we will come back and start at 10:45 with item 8. So with that, let's take a short break and let everybody look through them. It is now 10:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will resume our meeting. To start with, does anybody have any import application in item 8 that they'd like to pull out from the group consideration? Anybody online have any concerns about treating those as a group? Okay, then we will proceed. So our next item is item 8, and we will consider as a group with John giving reports on each items 8A through M. I will let him call out the name of each individual applicant as he described them, and we'll turn it over to the chair of the tech committee, Vice Chairman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Bionomics Inc. That's number 1-0497-00. That was received June 23, 2025. In this case, Bionomics is a broker who is requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. And they've requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable sealed sources in containers, including depleted uranium shielding, either separately or used to shield sources. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. In this case, Bionomics is requesting authorization for 700 cubic feet and 7,200 curies. We received no comments on this import application.
No, we didn't, WCS sent a comment letter on Friday for all of them.
We received no comments before I did the technical review. In this case, they're requesting authorization to dispose of waste from all states and U.S. territories except those in the Texas Compact, but specifically including Alaska, Hawaii, and Washington, D.C. I would note that waste from the Northwest, Southwestern, or Rocky Mountain Compacts generally require export authorization. And to date, those export authorizations and generator authorizations have not been received by the commission, so those would have to be provided at a separate date for to the commission for review. And they have indicated that the waste is from small quantity generators, and based on the volume, curies, and generator types, the commission concurs so long as the waste does not originate from a nuclear utility. They also requested an import agreement for the next fiscal year, so the proposed agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2026, the end of our fiscal year. The technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just for the benefit of those who may have never been to one of our meetings, there's generally 2 types of people that come before us. Generators, like nuclear facility, nuclear energy production facilities, sometimes some academic institutions, sometimes some hospitals. Then there's these people like Bionomics who are a broker. And if you're a small quantity generator of nuclear, low-level nuclear waste, you probably don't want to have someone who has to learn the process of disposal. So you hire one of these brokers. Bionomics is one of them. You'll see a couple others probably as we go through today. And so Bionomics is a broker who amasses multiple small sources from various generators. And I'm trying to think of like who they would be. Like they might be some hospitals,
Universities.
sometimes some private industry who kind of as a part of their process will kind of randomly generate some low-level nuclear waste on occasion. You know, some airlines for their signs and their exit rows, things like that are very small quantities that of course they don't want to go through this process. So they hire a broker to do it, and Bionomics is one of those. So I thought I'd point that out. Any other questions for the technical committee on 8A? Hearing none, we'll move on to 8B.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Unitech Services Group, Inc. That's number 1-0498-00. That was received June 26, 2025. Unitech is a broker who's requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've requested authorization for Class A unstable DAW metals, flowable material, resin, asbestos, depleted uranium, etc. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They requested authorization for 650 cubic feet and 10 curies. The comments received by the commission or were received by the commission after the technical review took place. They have requested authorization to dispose of waste from all states except Alaska, Hawaii, and Vermont. And I would note, so the list of requested states includes Texas, and this commission does not have authority or jurisdiction over the disposal of in-compact waste in Texas. So any waste that we would receive from the Northwest, Southwest, and Rocky Mountain compacts would generally require authorization, export authorization. Today, export authorizations and generator authorizations have not been received, so those would have to be provided to the commission at a later date for review. And they requested an agreement for next fiscal year, so the proposed agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical Committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John, with the low radioactivity and the compared to the volume, is this waste not appropriate for the reckless cell?
It probably depends on the isotopes, and there may be a specific reason why they are requesting disposal in the compact waste facility. Dave could maybe speak to that.
It's
From you.
650 cubic feet and only 10 curies, so I didn't know if that would be RCRA eligible or not.
The calculation's not that simple. If it really is 10 curies, it's just 50 cubic feet. I would imagine it certainly goes with the CWI. One thing that generators need to do if they're planning to send things to the wrecker cell is we have to run it through a process for it to be eligible to go to the wrecker cell. And if it doesn't pass that process, it would have to go into the compact waste facility. So they don't want to be sitting with the waste waiting on the site. They'd rather have that prepared. This particular waste stream, they may have things that are already for sure going in the compact waste facility.
They may not want to have to separate it out. It's easier to send it all.
And again, for the benefit of those who maybe haven't attended a meeting before, the compact waste facility can accept class A, B, and C waste. The RCRA facility that's also on site at WCS's facility can accept certain low levels of class A waste under a specific set of criteria that have been established by TCQ and approved by the NRC. So certain I'll call it very low because I know that's a term of art, but certain extremely low levels of radioactivity can go into the RCRA cell, and we often do see that. And that's the reason earlier when Mr. Carlson was up there talking about Vermont Yankee, I asked what percentage of the waste went to the RCRA cell, because a lot of the waste from decommissioning is actually eligible for the RCRA. And so the statistic we have heard is that 85 to 90% of the volume of waste that's generated from a decommissioning goes to the RCRA cell because of its low radioactivity. So this is an explanation for why that is. Any other questions for technical committee on item 8B? Hearing none, we can move on to item 8C.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Energy Solutions LLC. In this case, this is their broker application. It's number 1-0499-00 was received July 17, 2025. So Energy Solutions is acting as a broker on this application. They've requested authorization for unstable dry active waste, dewatered bead resin, filter media, mechanical filters, metal, and soil. And those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They request authorization for 650 cubic feet and 7,500 curies. They've indicated that the waste will originate from all states except those in the Texas compact, but specifically including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. So any waste from the Northwest, Southwest, and Rocky Mountain compacts will generally require export authorization. To date, those export authorizations and generator authorizations have not been submitted to the commission, so they'll have to be submitted at a later date for review. And they've requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So the proposed agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the technical committee? Hearing none, we can move on to item 8D, the import application of Fromatone.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Framatome Inc. That's number 1-0500-00. So we are officially at our 500th import application
What do we tell
because we started at 1. In this case, the application was received July 30, 2025. Framatome is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the act. And they are requesting authorization for
Guess you and I have seen them.
Class A and Class B stable byproduct waste from equipment used at nuclear power plants. In this case, they've requested authorization for 200 cubic feet and 100 curies. They have indicated that the waste will originate from the state of Virginia, which is in the Southeast Compact. It does not require export authorization. And I would note that they indicated the waste was from small quantity generators, but in this case, the commission would disagree. The applicant, Framatome, is obviously a very sophisticated generator. And so, and the waste is coming from the nuclear industry. So on both of those points, we would disagree. So this will not be treated as from a small quantity generator. They requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So the proposed agreement will be August 31, 2026. The tech committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the import application of Fromatone? Item 8D. Move on to item 8E, Xcel Energy.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Xcel Energy Prairie Island Nuclear Plant. It's number 1-0501-00. In this case, it was received August 5, 2025. Prairie Island is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the act. They've requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable feed resin, cartridge filters, and dry active waste. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 1,500 cubic feet and 500 curies. This waste will originate from Minnesota, which is in the Midwest Compact and does not require export authorization. They also indicated the waste was from a small quantity generator. I suspect that was just a typographical error. One of those things that, as Commissioner Morris indicated, we may try to change our drop-down menu in the application to make it a little more clear about that. So we will not treat this as from a small quantity generator. And they've requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So the proposed agreement will have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on item 8E, Xcel Energy's import application? Hearing none, we'll move on to 8F, the import application of Energy Solutions. Second one, excuse me, the second import.
This is the second one. Technical committee received and reviewed the import application from Energy Solutions LLC. They're acting as a generator on this application. It's 1-0502-00, and it was received August 7, 2025. So they are a generator. They've requested authorization for Class B and Class C unstable reformed residue from thermally processed resins, filters, resins, and dry activated waste. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site. The letter corresponds from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 650 cubic feet and 7,500 curies. They've indicated that this waste will originate from the state of Tennessee, which is in the Southeast Compact and does not require export authorization. And they have requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So the termination date for that agreement would be August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John, is it just me or all the numbers for the volumes and the curies seem to be aligning?
The volumes and the curies are the same. The waste stream is different on this application, and the waste class is different. So.
Any other questions on the second import application of Energy Solutions? Hearing none, we can move on to item 8G, which is the import application of Palisades Energy.
So the technical committee received the import application from Palisades Energy LLC. It's number 1-0503-00. It was received August 7, 2025. Again, they are a generator requesting authorization to dispose of Class A, Class B, and Class C unstable radiated hardware, reactor vessel components, metal cuttings, reactor primary coolant system components. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 2,000 cubic feet, but only 60 curies. This waste will originate from the state of Michigan, which is an unaffiliated state. And they've requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So the agreement will have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I would just like to note for the record that Brian Christian is officially an old man because he cannot make it through a meeting without standing up. Sorry. Ron isn't here, so you caught the brunt of it. I'm sorry.
TCQ people will chuckle.
Any questions about item 8G, the import application of Palisades Energy?
Well, I actually do have a question. John, you may need to deflect this one to still be CS, but I think so. Palisades is a plant that's been shut for several years and now being perhaps brought back into service. There are a couple of others like around the country, and I'm just wondering whether that creates an enhanced waste stream compared to whether a plant in normal operation or a plant being decommissioned.
I'm not sure about enhanced. My suspicion, because they indicated metal cuttings, my guess is they're cleaning out their fuel pool and there's debris. If you look at the actual waste stream, I suspect there's some debris that they're cleaning out of their fuel pool. But that's just a sort of a semi-uneducated guess. Dave,
Yeah, there's a few things they're doing. They're replacing some parts that may be irradiated that are older and that they've decided needed to be replaced. In some cases, and the other two sites are Dwayne Arnold and TMI 1. In some cases, they would do perhaps a primary clean out with some kind of a solvent to reduce dose rates. So that could potentially create a recommissioning waste stream. But the rest of the waste would be more routine waste that you see from a nuclear power plant. So really nothing that's significantly different from what you'd see from a outage at a nuclear power plant, because they'd be replacing old parts in that case too. In some cases, they'd be doing some kind of a primary side cleanup with some kind of decontamination
cycles.
Well, it just struck me as, you know, if you look at the actual waste stream, my guess is they're cleaning out their fuel pool and there's debris that they're cleaning out of their fuel pool. But that would be, that's just a sort of a semi-uneducated guess. Dave, a little weird that there are 60 curies and
2,000.
2,000 feet. Is there an explanation for that? Do you know?
I suspect they're just doing general cleanup of the plant. And as Dave pointed out, if they're doing a primary loop decontamination, they use a specific chemical typically to do that. And so it may generate a relatively significant amount of waste, but very low activity. And it included resins too, which is a good indication that they're
Clearing the shells.
right. And it may be the resins get contaminated, but it's with very low levels of radioactivity.
Yeah, 20 curies is not a nominal amount. It's
So, yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we can move on to item 8H, the import application of ADP CR3.
So the technical committee received and reviewed an import application from ADP CR3. It's number 1-0504-00. In this case, it was received August 26, 2025. And they are a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste. Specifically, they've asked for Class A, Class B, and Class C, stable and unstable miscellaneous demo debris from decommissioning activities and retired plant equipment. So this is from a decommissioning reactor site. Those waste streams were approved for disposal by TCEQ and letter correspondence dated September 25, 2025. Somewhat similarly, they've requested 2,500 cubic feet and only 10 curies. So very high volume, low activity waste, typical of demolition debris. That waste is originating from the state of Florida, which is in the Southeast Compact and does not require export authorization. And they've requested an agreement for next fiscal year. So in this case, that agreement have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I noticed they checked the small quantity generator box, but I'm assuming you disagree with that as well, right?
We do. So if I must have missed that, but yes, they are not considered a small quantity generator.
Any other questions for the technical committee on item 8H, import application of ADP CR3? Hearing none, we will move on to item 8I, the import application of Vistra.
So the technical committee received and reviewed an import application from Vistra Operations Company LLC, number 1-0505-00, and it was received August 27, 2025. Vista is a generator requesting authorization. And they've asked for Class B and Class C stable irradiated hardware consisting of the following, which is fuel channels, control rod blades, low power range monitors, intermediate range monitors, and SRMs. I'm trying to
source range monitors.
Source range monitors, dry tubes, canisters and stellite baskets, VMIR cans, jet pumps, filters, trash cans, velocity limiters, and reactor water heat exchangers. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 500 cubic feet and 85,000 curies. That waste will be originating from the state of Ohio, which is in the Midwest Compact. It does not require export authorization. And since this agreement is requesting authorization in excess of 15,000 curies, will have to be treated as contingent if it's approved. And the agreement would be from September 1, 2025 through August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This gives me the opportunity to hop up on my stump about our contingent carry program. Again, for those that have not been to a meeting before, What we found was, in particular with the irradiated hardware, it's incredibly hard to figure out the actual dosage rate. So they tend to overshoot the mark. But what that does is it pushes us up against our limitation that's set in Texas law of 275,000 curies a year that out of compact waste can be imported. So because this was we were getting these requests on paper, but in actuality, they were using a far less number of curies. What we developed was this contingent curie program that says that you will be conditionally granted the right to use those curies, but at the time you actually are ready to ship, which we understand then they'll have a much better understanding of the actual dose rate of these materials. They then apply for, or not apply for, but they send us notice and we approve as a curie release letter, the actual curies they're going to use. And what we found is that has solved the problem of potentially going over the 275 on paper, but in actuality, never actually going over the 275. So we have developed this program and they will, when they are actually ready to ship the irradiated hardware, they will send us a letter requesting the release of the curies. Obviously, if we ever got into a situation where we were bumping up against our 275,000 curie cap, it would then become simply a first come, first serve basis that, you know, if you got us the request for the curies first, you would get them. And then at 275, we would stop granting those authorizations. But this has worked effectively. We've never gotten close to our 275,000 curie cap. In actuality, while on paper, we've exceeded it a number. So that is the reason for the contingent curie treatment of this one. In 85,000 curies kind of proves the point that that's a large number or a large percentage of the 275,000 curie cap. But my guess is that they won't use anywhere near those 85,000 curies. So that's a quick explanation of how we, when John says contingent curie program, that's what he means. So with that, any other questions for the technical committee on item 8I, the import application of Vistra? Okay, we can move on to item 8J, the import application of OnCare digital assets.
The technical committee received and reviewed an import application from OnCare Digital Assets, Inc. It's number 1-0506-00, received September 3, 2025. In this case, OnCare is a broker. And they've requested authorization to dispose of Class A, Class B, and Class C stable sealed sources, industrial devices, and concrete and associated debris. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 240 cubic feet and 350 curies. They've indicated that waste will originate from all compacts, excluding the Northwest Compact and including the following unaffiliated states and districts, which is Michigan, Nebraska, New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine, and North Carolina, and Washington, D.C. So in this case, they included the Texas Compact. And again, our commission does not have jurisdiction over the in-compact disposal of in-compact waste. Any waste from the Southwestern or Rocky Mountain compacts will require export authorization. To date, those have not been provided, so they'll have to be provided to the commission for review in advance of any shipments. And they've indicated the waste is from small quantity generators based on the volume, curies, and generator types. The commission concurs so long as none of the waste comes from nuclear power utility. And this agreement will be for this, in essence, this fiscal year. So the proposed agreement would have a termination date of 2026. Tech committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is this a new broker?
Yeah.
I believe this is their second year.
Second or third, something like that.
Any other questions for the technical committee on item 8J, the import application of OnCare digital assets? Hearing none, we can move on to the next item, item 8K, the import application of North Star demolition and remediation.
The committee has reviewed an import application from North Star Demolition and Remediation. It's number 1-0507-00. It was received September 3, 2025. They are a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste. And they've asked for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable demolition debris, remediation waste, remediated hardware, and source manufacturing materials. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site. A letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025, and they've requested authorization for 5,000 cubic feet and 200 curies. They've indicated this waste will originate from California, which is in the Southwest Compact, and does require export authorization. To date, that has not been provided, so that'll have to be sent to the commission in advance of any shipments. And they've requested an agreement for next fiscal year, so the proposed agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We know which project this is in California?
It's GE LLC.
Yeah, right.
The Hitachi, right?
Formerly GE LLC.
How many of those projects does North Star have now?
They're currently working on 4 major projects, a lot of minor projects. The major projects are Vermont Yankee, Crystal River, Vallecillos, and the USS Enterprise.
And you still have what, common ownership, right?
We're both owned by,
Yeah.
Any other questions for the technical committee on item 8K, the import application of North Star demo? Hearing none, we can move on to item 8L, the import application of Toxico materials.
The committee has reviewed an import application from Toxico Materials Management. It's number 1-0508-00. It was received September 4, 2025. In this case, Toxico is acting as a broker. And they've requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C unstable resins, metals, DAW, sealed sources, DU, which is shielding pins, rods, and similar material. And those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site. The letter of correspondence from TCQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 3,000 cubic feet and 150 curies. And they've indicated that that waste will be originate from all states except those in the Texas Compact, but including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. So any waste from the Northwest, Southwest, or Rocky Mountain Compacts will generally require export authorization. To date, those have not been provided, so they'll have to be sent to the commission for review in advance of any shipments. And Toxico is requesting an agreement for next fiscal year, so the proposed the agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
A line in their application reminded me of something that probably is worth repeating as well. Generally speaking, we ask that no one makes an application for import until they physically have the waste. And that makes sense with someone who's an actual generator because they should have their own waste. There is an exception, though, that we've always followed with brokers, because brokers basically fly in advance. And some of it is waste they anticipate receiving at a later date. And Toxico even actually makes reference to that here. And we had a pretty full debate about whether that was appropriate or not. And obviously what we concluded was, based on the broker business model, we have to allow them to get what is in effect kind of an advance allotment of importation authority, because they go out and collect it throughout the year. And sometimes they come back and amend it, but generally this is a projection of what they expect to receive during the year, and then actually broker it into the disposal side. So I wanted to make sure that was made clear too, because they specifically say in their application that future incoming waste from various generators and brokers will be part of this allotment. So any other questions for the technical committee on item 8L, the import application of Toxico materials? Hearing none, we can move on to the very last one, item 8M, the import application of Southern Nuclear Plant Vogtle.
Committee has reviewed an import application from Southern Nuclear Plant Vogtle. It's number 1-0509-00. And it's received September 4, 2025. In this case, Vogtle is the operator requesting authorization to dispose of waste. They request authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C unstable reactor water, resin, mechanical filters, and dry active waste. And those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site. A letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated September 25, 2025. They've requested authorization for 1,800 cubic feet and 1,000 curies. Vogel is located in Georgia, which is in the Southeast Compact, and so it does not require export authorization. And they've asked for an agreement for next fiscal year, so the termination date would, or the proposal would have a termination date of August 31, 2026. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on item 8M, the import application of Southern Nuclear Vogel? Seeing none, I think that concludes item 8, and we will, before we do this, John, do we need to separate out the irradiated hardware application, or can it all be simple?
I think we can do it all together.
Then with that, we will turn it back over to the technical committee for a motion on items 8A through 8M.
All right. I make a motion to approve the import applications. I'll just go ahead and call out the numbers, just to be clear. That's 497, 498, 499, 500, 501, 502, 503, 504, 505, 506, 507, 508, and 509. And my motion includes all the exceptions as indicated for the brokers. Those will have to be sending their specifics of what they want to ship prior to any shipments, as well as for plant. I'm sorry, wasn't Plant Vogel? Who's the
Vistra.
For Vistra irradiated hardware? So that'll be approved on a contingent basis.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the omnibus motion for items 8A through M?
As corrected with small quantity generated.
And yes, there are several that are for a small quantity generator set aside, and I have all that information for you for the agreements.
So now, as amended, any comments from the public on the motion? Seeing none, we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion as amended to approve the import applications with the conditions stated in items 8A through M, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. And we are through with item 8 on our agenda. We can now move on to item 9, which is our singular amendment from Wolf Creek. Again, just for those who maybe haven't been to one of our meetings before, our amendment process is much less formal than our application process. We simply ask people to submit a letter that details the amendment they want. Several years ago, we even passed a rule for minor amendments that do not require commission approval, but those are very limited and really only apply to if you want to change the states of origin of waste, because we found that people are having to go through a process just to simply add, a single state to their waste stream, and we thought that was not necessary. So we do approve minor amendments to that process without coming before the entire commission, but anything that, especially anything that changes volume or curie count or types of material or anything like that, we do require an affirmative vote of the full commission. So today's amendment is from Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Company, and I will turn it back over to the vice chairman to give us a report on that amendment.
Technical committee has reviewed an amendment request from Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation that was received August 11, 2025. And it's number 1-0478-01. In this case, Wolf Creek has requested to amend their agreement to increase the radioactivity by 200 curies, and they've indicated that increase is necessary for the disposal of some legacy waste that they've determined had more activity than they had originally estimated. There were no other changes requested, and though it's not, actually, this is not technically necessary, the TCEQ did provide a approval letter for this disposal at the site via letter of correspondence dated September 25, 2025. Technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about the amendment request from Wolf Creek represented in item 9A on our agenda? Any public comment? With that, I think we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion to approve the amendment request from Wolf Creek. It's number 1-0478-01, and this is to increase the curies radioactivity by 200 curies.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion about the amendment request of Wolf Creek represented in item 9A on our agenda? Hearing none, we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. You're covering the full gamut today because item 10 on our agenda is consideration for an export approval. Again, just to reset for everyone, exports are something that come under our purview because in order to export waste that are in our compact that could otherwise be disposed of potentially at the facility in Andrews, they require our approval. Oftentimes it's because of a specific technical process or a capability that the facility in Andrews does not have. And so they try to send them to other facilities and export them out of our compact. Today, item 10 is an export application from Bionomics. Obviously, we take exports very seriously because we do not want to rob our facility of any revenue that they otherwise would get. But I will turn it over to the Vice Chairman to explain what the export application is, and then maybe we can have a discussion about why it needs to be exported.
The technical committee has reviewed an export application for request from Bionomics Inc. And in this case, they want to export industrial, academic research, and medical waste. The period of this agreement would be September 1, 2025 through August 31, 2026. And they're requesting ability to export 225 cubic feet. Most often this waste goes out in 55-gallon drums. So if you do the math, that's probably around 30 barrels, give or take, of waste. The total radioactivity of this waste is estimated to be 1 curie. It's all Class A. It'll be sent to the Energy Solutions Bear Creek facility, which is in Tennessee. It's liquids, oils, and also vials, scintillation vials. It could technically be solidified or absorbed before it was disposed, but in this case, it truly is more economical to send that waste for incineration, which is what they are proposing. This is a pretty typical waste that does get exported and that we have approved in the past. It's also to do some of the work that it would take to solidify these materials probably would actually potentially increase dose to people. So it's probably the more economical and safer thing to do. The technical committee recommends approval of this export request.
I don't want to put Mr. Carlson on the spot, but does WCS have any objection to the export?
It's a minor part.
Okay, any other questions for the technical committee on this export application? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion to approve the export request from Bionomics Inc. It's Class A material, 1 curie. It's 225 cubic feet, and it will be exported to the Bear Creek facility in Tennessee.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the export request of Bionomics represented in item 10 on our agenda? Any public comment? Hearing none, we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the export request from Bionomics in item 10 on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. So with that, John finally gets a break. Item 11 on our agenda is the chairman's report, and I will keep it brief. As most of you know, next week is the forum meeting in Baltimore. So I hope those of you who go will come back and give us a report. I think without going into too much detail, I think important things are happening at the forum right now. And I think the future of the forum is going to really be solidified, I hope, in the coming months. I think both the finances and the role of the forum and the way it kind of operates as our national voice is going to hopefully be ironed out. As I've said before, and I genuinely mean, because I want to be a good steward of public funds, I think every year we need to make an honest assessment of whether or not the money we spend on the forum is something that we can find a value in. I currently personally do think it is, but if that ever changes, I want to make sure that discussion is had. So to the extent any of you ever feel like, boy, what are we doing in this forum? I'd ask that you contact Stephen or I, and we can actually put it as an agenda item. Stephen, through the forum, is having a lot of interaction with all of the compacts. And there are some common issues that affect multiple of us that I'm sure he will talk a little bit about. But again, I think we're kind of at a critical point where some of those decisions or some of those policy decisions are going to start taking a more solidified point in our history. So hopefully that's something that happens in the coming weeks and months, and we'll report back more on that. As far as the legislative update goes, I'm sure some of you have seen the bill that was passed during the last legislative session related to nuclear development in the state of Texas has progressed. There was $350 million appropriated by the legislature for it. The governor has named and I can't remember what the title.
Nuclear officer, chief nuclear officer.
Chief nuclear officer for the state of Texas. It is someone who I think is going to be well qualified for the job and is very well versed in it. That will probably not be an easy job, deciding how money gets doled out in grants and how they further the kind of the important issue of development of nuclear facilities and technology in our state. But obviously we'll watch that very carefully because that could have a very direct impact for us. And I hope at some point in the future we do play a role in that as the issue of waste comes back around to be discussed as the new nuclear developments start to take shape. Other than that, we're in a period right now when our legislature is not meeting. They will meet again in January of 27. There's a lot of change going on among our elected officials. There are a lot of people who are not seeking re-election. So I'm sure we will have a lot of new faces and we look forward to working with them. With that, I will say again, as much of a broken record as this makes it sound like, that we have so enjoyed our time in Vermont. This is such a wonderful trip. I stepped outside my hotel room today and it was 39 degrees and I thought that was the best thing that's ever happened to me. But obviously the hospitality that we get from everyone here, we so appreciate it. And obviously we want to thank Karen Sodick, and I guess we have to thank Dick too, for the wonderful dinner that they provided us on Wednesday night. It was a lot of fun. They invite us into their home and when they don't have to, and they cooked a wonderful meal. So we appreciate that. And we just are ever grateful that we get to partner with the state of Vermont, and we're proud to come here. With that, I believe that concludes the chairman's report. And item 12, we will turn it over, item 11, we'll turn it over to Stephen for the executive director's report, which is item 12.
So just an update for you, to reference number one, we talked last time about some budget changes that we made. We're looking to hire an attorney for the commission to do some legal work for us. And also we're looking to hire a technical assistant and an administrative assistant as well. So that's a discussion. If you have any interested questions about the hiring of an attorney for us or a technical assistant, that's kind of in development, what we need in a technical assistant or a technical consultant for us. And then we're looking for an administrative assistant as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that, about what we're doing on that, the process. We're selecting those folks. But we'll keep the discussion with Chairman Hurley and the Administration Committee, which is Commissioner Nyack as well, on proceeding with those things. Other thing was, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we are going to develop kind of job descriptions for all those. So Sumana is going to develop the job description with Stephen and I on the admin assistant. John and Linda have agreed to kind of develop a job description for the technical assistant. Obviously, the attorney, I think I can develop that job description, but we will try to really look to make those hires here in the next 30 to 60 days, because I think we have been waiting on a long time and we don't want to wait any longer. So, but I'm excited about the fact that we're moving forward on that. So thank you to all of you that are going to develop those jobs.
The thing I was gonna add was the forum, we do, at the forum meeting next week, we're gonna have a panel discussion about some of the interstate, all the inter-compact relations and their concerns about waste that is going in between compacts without, attribution and without, that's the best way to describe it, is the compacts are concerned there's waste leaving their compact without their knowledge and without proper export authorization. There'll be a discussion next week about that, I'm moderating a panel on that, and I'd love to hear your input. I know Commissioners Salzman and Commissioner Morris will be in attendance as well, but hopefully some of those issues will get resolved as the forum discusses how to address that concern. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission will be there as well as other industry participants. So we're hoping to see some resolution to what's been a long-running issue between the compacts on that.
It highlights an interesting issue in that every compact has kind of its own origin document, some of which require export authorizations and some of which they have developed as a rule to require export authorizations, but many of them don't. And so there is kind of a hodgepodge of protocols out there. And I think this issue kind of highlights a lot of that. And I'm hoping that maybe the forum can come out and start developing some sort of nationwide protocol that'll help resolve some of these issues. Any other questions of Stephen? Then we are on to item 14, which is our future meetings. Our next meeting is December 11th in Austin. As I always say, we will not meet just for the sake of meeting. I am not sure if we'll need that meeting or not. It will depend a lot on if we have export authorizations that roll in, because after that, we do not meet again until February 11th or February 12th of the new year. And so to the extent anyone actually has import applications, we will want to take care of those for the end of the year, because it may be a timing issue with them getting things done, maybe even before the end of the calendar year. So if we have import applications that need to be addressed, we will have that meeting. If we don't, we may cancel it. So obviously, watch your email and we will let you know if that's something we need to have going forward. Then looking a little bit in advance, April 16th, we have listed as either Andrews or Austin. I think this is a discussion that we probably can have right now if y'all will entertain it. We obviously try to go to Andrews once a year. And if we all want to continue doing that, I think that's great. And this may be more Commissioner Nyack than anyone that we're asking this question of is, I don't want to go to Andrews and incur the expense of going to Andrews on a yearly basis if we don't think it's necessary. I think, we do it to make ourselves available to the people of Andrews. And I think we do have some attendance from people in Andrews. But the question is, do we want to do it every year? Do we want to do it every other year? And so if anyone has any thoughts on that, obviously, please feel free to share them. I don't know that I have any firm convictions on that other than to say, obviously we are taking up public resources when we go to Andrews because we're meeting in a room that's otherwise used by the county. And I mean, I know it's not a huge headache for them, but it is some level of inconvenience for them. So if we don't think we need to be there every year, I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Does anybody else have any opinions or thoughts on it?
I knew it coming to interest.
And the real issue is Sumana knows that we're going to invade her home if we go to Andrews. So that's another real consideration. We don't want to impose too much on her and Satish either.
I
So
don't have any problem. I would love for you to come.
I mean, we always encourage winter meetings, for people from Vermont. So, don't just, out of hand cancel the December one.
yeah,
I mean, you're gonna have
if you
to
can get
consult
out,
with us.
yeah. So we will continue to discuss it, and obviously it's a little ways off because it's April that Andrews meeting may occur. So we will have a firm decision on that before the end of this calendar year for that April meeting. And like I said, we will have more discussions to make sure we gather everybody's opinion on it. The other option is in April or maybe even later that spring or early summer. once again, going back to Granbury and going to Comanche Peak, Brian Christian has offered to try to start that process rolling. Because Commissioner Anwar's never gotten the opportunity to see a facility, and because it's been 3 years by then that we've been there, it might be a good idea to go back and tour the facility and make sure we hear from some of our interested parties at Comanche Peak. So if anyone has any thoughts about that, we were thinking that may be late spring, early summer location as well. Which again, we could vary that in whatever way y'all want, but we think that's one of the things we're looking to for the long range planning of our meetings.
Mr. Adams is on one, so we notified.
Right. So just keep that in mind, and if any of you have dates that you know could not go to Cranberry, please let us know, because Cranberry is not too hard to get to, but I also want to be cognizant of everyone's schedule. So, any other comments about meetings or questions? Hearing none, then I will get to item 14, which is adjournment. Will anyone move to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a second. All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for attending, both online and in person.